And thank you all for being here. I'm going to just jump right in because you guys didn't come here to hear me talk. Shmuley, is there an afterlife?
We all believe in an afterlife. We just don't believe in some religious people's distortion of the afterlife. One such distortion took place a few blocks away at Ground Zero, where 19 men thought that by practicing violence they would get sex. It's quite an interesting idea. It's about as perverse as they come. Muhammad Atta, a note was left by him at Logan Airport where he said, "I will soon be with the women of paradise." For him, the afterlife is one giant orgy, where in recompense for his profound act of violence, he will get celestial orgasmic bliss. For some of my Christian brothers and sisters, the idea of the afterlife is this world as an anteroom for heaven, for a place that's going to be perfect. This is a book written about the afterlife by Dinesh D'Souza, who Christopher and I participated in a debate together in Mexico recently with him. And the introduction is by Rick Warren, one of the country's most respected pastors. He writes, "We were made to last forever, and this life is like a warm-up act, a dress rehearsal for the real show in eternity. Once we fully grasp this, it makes all the difference in the world, affecting our choices, values. We reorder our priorities and start emphasizing the enduring important things over the temporary things. So what is the purpose of this world? Only to get into the next world. Hence, religion has come under some very serious and accurate criticism that this world is belittled by faith, that what you do here is nothing but a means to an end, that Jesus is the road to salvation, that we try to garner enough virtue in this world and in this life so that we reach a critical mass, and that critical mass allows you to have the pearly gates of heaven open for you. And if you don't reach that critical mass, well, my friend, like an Oompa Loompa and Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, you get sent straight to the netherworld, but it's not made of chocolate. It is a big, giant barbecue. And you are going to be put on a spit, and you are going to roast forever and ever. Unfortunately, if you're Jewish and you don't believe in Jesus, even if you lived a virtuous life, at times, some of my Christian brothers and sisters would say, if I lived righteously, gave charity, honored my wife, and inspired my children, I am still going to that barbecue. This is the reason why, more than any other belief, the afterlife has undermined religion. St. Peter's Cathedral, where I had the great honor of meeting the Pope 4 months ago, was built with a belief in indulgences, that you could actually buy your way into the afterlife. Some say we have to have an afterlife, because otherwise, how do we explain all the evil in the world? If there's no afterlife, you mean Hitler can gas 1 million children. He can turn 5 million Jews and 90% of the world's Roma gypsy population into lampshades, ash, and soap. And he can just put a bullet through his brain and he can escape. Saddam Hussein can just go into a noose. Isn't he roasting somewhere? Come on, my friends. This is also an infantile idea. Do you really believe that no matter what they did to Hitler in some hellish afterlife, if he foundered in purgatory for all eternity, if they put needles into him, if they dismembered him, if they disemboweled him and drew and quartered him, that this would somehow make up for what he did to 12 million innocent non-combatants? Absurd to think that, well, at least he's getting his just reward. That's why, although Judaism absolutely affirms a belief in the afterlife, because we believe that there is mind and matter, that there is a conscience, there is a me, call it a soul, an individual will, which is not only conditioned to exist in the temporal confines of the body, but can actually transcend it. In other words, we are an idea and not just a living organism. And we believe that that idea can, of course, survive death. Nevertheless, we have Eden. Judaism is emphatic that the afterlife is right here on earth. The afterlife as a spiritual abode called heaven should be an afterthought. You don't serve God in order to get some big prize in the hereafter. That makes religion into nothing but a petty commercial enterprise. That makes religion into nothing but, God, if I do for you, then you better as heck do for me. And God is an end and not a means. The afterlife is right here, and we all believe in it. The Talmud says that the patriarch Jacob did not die, because the Bible says he didn't die. It says Vayigva, he was elevated. So the Talmud says, Yaakov Avinu lo mes, our patriarch Jacob never died. And then it says, what do you mean he didn't die? It says he was buried. It says that Pharaoh led a giant procession with Joseph, the viceroy of Egypt, with so many kings who put their crowns on his coffin. He died. And the Talmud says no. Mazaro b'chaim, afu b'chaim. Because his children live in the example that he displayed. He has an afterlife through them. I see that with Christopher. I see it with Martin Luther King. I'm a white Jew. But his afterlife impacts me almost every day of my life, because he was the greatest American of the 20th century, because he restored us to the founding principles of this nation. And every time we want to move away from it, every time someone says something stupid and racist, stupid and too ethnic, stupid and prejudicial, we remember that he had a dream. And that dream wasn't just while he was a collection of swirling electrons and molecules. That dream transcended him, and it lives on in his afterlife. And it impacts upon us until this very day. I am not interested in heaven, and I couldn't give a damn about hell. If I'm destined to burn, then so be it. I don't want to be in some perfect place where I have nothing to contribute. In my religion and Judaism, when I go to a cemetery to pray at the graves of great people who represented a great idea so that I'm inspired by their vision, by their dream, by their message, I am obligated to tuck in my tzitzit. I'm obligated to not perform any of the Torah's commandments in their presence. The reason? Because we're not jealous of them in heaven. They're jealous of us on earth. They want to do more good deeds. They want to practice more virtue. A perfect abode in heaven is one of the worst religious ideas, even as I affirm a full belief in it. Not that I can prove it. I can't. I cannot. It's a sheer matter of faith. I reject all the silly arguments that are often offered in the name of religion. Near-death experiences, bright lights hovering above your hospital bed. I even saw this cartoon that said, it showed these surgeons who were operating on someone, and on top there was a giant sign that said, if you can read this, you are dead. I reject near-death experiences. I don't believe they are scientifically acceptable. There's plenty of ways to explain it. Ouija boards, people who speak to the dead are all frauds to a man. I debated them on Larry King, all the people who speak to those in the afterlife, Sylvia Brown and John Edward and James Van Prague. We were on Larry King, and I said, Larry, this is my yarmulke, and if one of these guys can get up right now and tell us when the next IED will explode in Iraq and Afghanistan, thereby saving the life of a brave American hero, because they can communicate with the dead, who they see the future, I will put salt and pepper on this yarmulke, and I will eat it right here on national TV. Not one of them did it, and my yarmulke is still here. The afterlife are the good deeds that we do that live on forever. If we are fortunate and virtuous enough to make our life consecrated, to crystallize our idea through sheer force of will into something larger than ourselves. Something larger than ourselves. For some, it's a great act of philanthropy. Andrew Carnegie lives on. I don't have that kind of money. I hope to live on through inspiring my children to bestow dignity on others. That will be my afterlife. Will my soul go to some great abode in the heavens? My religion tells me it will. But I don't care if it doesn't. I was inspired when Christopher said he won't change his convictions because he's not going to allow the netherworld to make him believe. Come on, religion's not supposed to be practiced out of fear. If he changed, people said to me, are you going to convert him? It's going to be great. Can you imagine? The world's greatest atheist. You convert him at the Cooper Union, at the Great Hall. And hallelujah, glory be. And I said to them, how pathetic would that be? To discover that a man I've admired and seen as such a formidable opponent was all along a fake and a coward, who as soon as death stared him in the face, he decided, well, come on. Like the famous story with Machiavelli. Machiavelli was on his deathbed. This apocryphal story, they say it's true. But the priest says to him, do you renounce Satan and all his works? And Machiavelli ignores him. Do you renounce Satan and all his works? These are your last moments. Machiavelli opens one eye, turns to the priest, and he says, Father, at this stage of my life, it is not wise to make enemies. Our afterlife, atheist, religious person, agnostic can all agree, is making our life larger than ourselves. To that extent, some of us won't have one, because America has become so narcissistic, so self-centered. Facebook, all of this allows us to tell our friends what we ate for breakfast cereal. But those of us who understand it's not about us, it is something larger than us, and that's something that everybody with faith or lack thereof agrees, that it's not about us, then you will have an incredible afterlife. It might be on a global scale, and it might not be. You might be a hero to thousands, you might be a hero only to your own children. But that's how we live on, by living for a cause larger than ourselves, to which we dedicate ourselves, and which survives us. If we embraced this idea of an afterlife, it wouldn't have to be an afterthought, and would actually inspire people to see that religion is not born out of weakness, and religion is not born out of a hope that we have some sort of immortality because we can't face death, but religion is born out of a genuine desire to make our lives into a blessing for others. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I don't know, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, hope I can say comrades, friends, if any of you have ever had the experience of pushing hard on an open door and then having it swing in on you and fall, not flat on your face, but feel you didn't really need to give it that much of a shove. I thought I came all this way to debate the eschatological questions, the four last things: death, judgment, heaven and hell. What do I find? Another Jewish secularist. And another Jewish secularist in the incredibly target-rich environment of Cooper Union on the Lower East Side of New York. For this, I had to get on the shuttle. I take it, I will not take it as was once said at the tribute of virtue to vice, the compliment, the vice-based to virtue, the ideal of hypocrisy in the first place. I take it as the incremental effort of a lot of steady work that some of us have been putting in to dispel illusions in the supernatural. And in a private belief that I've held for a long time, which is that very many of the practitioners of these faiths don't believe it either. And perhaps that might be the first consolation that we take away from this evening's discussion. My own task having been so much lightened, even though I retain the tiny suspicion, and I hope it's an ignoble one, that Rabbi Shmuley might possibly be going easy on me. And that would be a great cause of resentment. If I thought for a second that that was true, it's already bad enough that I'm the fifth person appearing on this stage, and you may have noticed the steady decline in the standard of pulchritude that went on after number 3 had left the stage. So I'm left to restate what I still want to say, and have to begin with a disagreement. The idea that a person who martyrs himself and kills others in the cause of the faith will be rewarded in paradise is not a delusion of Muhammad Atta's. I wish it was. It would be very nice if we could say that that was the case. It is rather a belief firmly rooted in the holy book of the Muslim faith, the Quran. It is believed by an enormous number of people. It may not be disbelieved that someone who martyrs himself for the faith will be so rewarded. To do that would be to challenge the authenticity of the book, and therefore cannot be done. The most that can be done is to say that somebody interpreted this mad instruction incorrectly, but we would be living in a very happy world indeed if this was just a delusion of one leader of a 19-man gang. The same, I think, can be said of, I think it's, you'll correct me, I'm sure, Shmuley, if I'm mistaken, but I think it's number 13 of the Rambam's list of articles of faith, Maimonides' opinions of what it's necessary to believe in order to be of the faithful, that there will be a resurrection. It comes just after, I think, the belief that the Messiah will come. Though, because it's Maimonides, because it's the Rambam, he does say, though he may tarry, you may not doubt that he will come, nor may you doubt that you're due another life. Now, I'm sorry. I take this stuff very seriously because I have to deal with, as I do with the Christian version of it, put so creepily and so shadily, that we bury our dead, the Christian faith, of which I'm not a member, they bury their dead in what they call, in this slightly evasive way, the sure and certain hope of resurrection. Not the sureness and the certainty of, you notice. They haven't got the arrogance for that anymore, but the sure and certain hope